Should I buy or should I rent? The age-old question that's surprisingly difficult to answer right now. And are you really throwing away money if you decide to rent? And is owning a house really a liability? You might be asking yourself some of these questions, and in today's video, I want to take a look at some real numbers and hopefully help you decide whether it makes sense to buy or sell in this current market environment. If you're new here, my name is AC and I'm a lifelong finance enthusiast. My goal is to help you get more comfortable with your money. So let's go, let's get right into it. First thing we need to do is come up with a fair way to evaluate buying versus selling. Now, most people will simply start by comparing the mortgage to their monthly rent payment. This is a good place to start to see if you can afford a property, but in terms of evaluating the cost to own versus rent a property, it's not an apples to apple comparison. The better comparison is to look at the sunk cost of both. The definition of a sunk cost is a payment that can never be recovered. For example, your monthly rent payment is a sunk cost. You're not gaining any equity, and therefore once you make that payment, the money essentially evaporates. On the other hand, housing also has a bunch of sunk costs, but they're a little bit more difficult to measure. For example, your mortgage payment is divided into both a principal and an interest payment. Interest portion of the mortgage is a sunk cost, whereas the principal you're paying is not a sunk cost. The principal payment is actually paying towards equity in the home, and so when you resell, you actually gain all of that money back. Therefore, this is not a sunk cost. In addition, there are other costs such as property taxes and the cost of maintaining the property on a year-to-year basis. A good estimate is about 1% the cost of the property. So for example, if you have a $500,000 home, you can assume about $5,000 in property taxes and $5,000 to maintain the home every year. A couple of years ago, there was a rule that was popularized by Ben Felix. It was called the 5% rule. This rule would give you a quick way to estimate how much it would cost to own a property in terms of a sunk cost. Now, Ben Felix referred to these costs as unrecoverable costs, but they're essentially the same thing. The way this rule works is you take 5% and you multiply it by the total cost of the property. So for example, if you have a $500,000 property, you multiply by 5% and you get $25,000. This estimates the annual cost that you're not going to recover when you own this property. In terms of how we came up with this estimate, there are three major parts. So the first one is a 1% estimate for property taxes. The second one is a 1% estimate for maintenance costs. The third one is your opportunity cost for equity capital. And this incorporates your down payment and also the mortgage interest rate that you're going to be paying yearly. At the time of making the rule, mortgage rates were indeed 2 to 3%. But in current market environments, the mortgage rate is closer to 6 to 7%, and therefore the 5% rule isn't the most accurate anymore. If you really wanted a quick and dirty way to estimate the cost of owning a property right now, it's better to use 7 to 8%. So for example, if you had a $500,000 home, right now it would probably cost closer to $35,000 to $40,000 every year to own the property. And remember, this is just a shorthand. If you really wanted a true estimate, you should compare the true numbers yourself, and that's exactly what we're gonna do next. I went to Zillow to see if I could find two similar properties that are available for rent and available to buy right now. So I found these two properties in Plano, Texas. The property for sale is listed at $515,000 and the property for rent is listed at $3,000. These properties have 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. They were built in 2018 and both have approximately 1,800 square feet. In addition, they both have a 2-car garage. In my opinion, these two units look pretty similar to me. And now let's look at the true cost of renting versus the true cost of owning and plug in some real numbers. So let's start with the renting side. By the way, there's no way I'm gonna remember all of these numbers by hand, so I'm gonna refer to my laptop from time to time. The first is the monthly rent, which is listed at $3,000. And so if we multiply by 12, we get $36,000 for an annual cost. The next is renter's insurance. And for this, I estimated about $25 per month, or about $300 per year. In addition, there are always other fees such as trash removal or HOA fees, and in this case, I estimate about $50, which comes out to about $600 per year. So the monthly total comes to $3,075, and the annual total comes to $36,900. In addition, I went one step further to adjust for rising rent prices. So I assumed a 2% rise every year to keep up with inflation. And if you rented this property for 10 years, on that 10th year, you're gonna be paying close to $44,980. And in order to get a true estimate over the 10 years, I took the payment for the first year and the annual payment for the 10th year and averaged those two together. So if you do that, your inflation adjusted annual payment is about $40,940 or $3,412 monthly. So there we go. We have an estimate to rent this property for the next 10 years, and it comes out to about $40,940 on an annual basis. Now let's see what it costs to buy this home instead. Cost of the home is $515,000, and I assumed about a 10% down payment, which leaves us with a mortgage of about $463,000 and $500 as a loan. In addition, I estimated the mortgage rate to be 6.5% right now. So if we take that loan amount and multiply the mortgage rate, we get about $30,000 every year in interest payments. And on a monthly basis, this comes out to about $2,500 per month. In addition, we have to look at the property tax next. And in this case, it was listed for us. It was listed at $914 monthly. And on an annual basis, that comes out to about $10,900. In addition, the homeowner's insurance was also listed, and monthly it comes out to $180, and on an annual basis, that's $2,160. The next is the maintenance cost, which I estimated at about 1%, which is about $5,100 for the year or $429 on a monthly basis. In addition, we are going to have to pay a PMI because our down payment was less than 20%. And by the way, PMI stands for private mortgage insurance. Anytime you make less than a 20% down payment, you're gonna have to pay an additional amount until you get to 20% equity in the home. Again, I used a 1% estimate, and with our mortgage loan of $463,000, it comes to about $4,600 on an annual basis or $386 on a monthly basis. And the last one is a little bit tricky. It's the opportunity cost for your down payment and also the closing cost. Remember, you made a down payment of 10%, which is about $51,000. In addition, you're gonna have to pay about 6% in closing costs, which comes to about $31,000 as well. Now, if you take the total here, that's about $82,000 that you're going to have to spend to close the property. And if you weren't buying this property, you'd essentially have an additional $82,000 to invest in other asset classes. And I assumed a safe investment into index funds or the S&P 500. In addition, I use a super conservative estimate of about 6% return on capital every year. So if you had $81,000 invested in the stock market, that would return about $4,900 per year or about $412 on a monthly basis. And remember, stocks don't move in a linear fashion, but this is an average over 10 years if you were to invest that money into the stock market. So if we total up all of these costs, we get $57,984 on an annual basis. And on a monthly basis, that comes out to about $4,800. So if we stopped here, it would actually be much more expensive to buy this property than to rent this property. Remember, the annual basis to rent this property is about $40,000, and the annual cost to buy this property is about $58,000. That's about a 30% increase to buy this property as opposed to rent this property. Now, let's take it one step further and actually look at the house and the assets that it provides. So in terms of assets, there are two main advantages when it comes to owning a home. First is the appreciation on the value of the home every year. Now, in the last 2 to 3 years, there was a massive surge in housing prices, and we had about a 15 to 20% appreciation. But this is very abnormal. A better estimate is approximately 3% over the long run. So our $515,000 home will appreciate 3% per year, or $15,000 on an annual basis, or about $1,300 on a monthly basis. The second main advantage is the tax benefit or the tax deductions you get from paying down interest payments and property taxes. This calculation is a little bit trickier. We don't get to deduct the entire amount on the interest and the property tax because we already have a standard deduction of $25,900 for married couples or people filing jointly. For this property, let's take the annual interest payment and the annual property tax, and then we'll subtract it from $25,900. And that number comes out to about $5,300 on a yearly basis or $443 on a monthly basis. And so finally, let's get the true cost of owning this home by subtracting out the tax savings and also the housing appreciation. So now the final number comes out to about $37,216 or $3,100 on a monthly basis. So this is the real number we can compare to the rent number. So on an annual basis, it's going to cost us $41,000 to rent or $37,000 to buy. So there are a couple of takeaways here. Number one, you can't really just compare the rent payment and the mortgage payment and come up with a fair estimate. In addition, the numbers are super close right now, probably due to the high mortgage rates. So it's really important for you to really crunch these numbers for each property that you're truly considering to buying versus renting. Good news, I did actually link my own personal spreadsheet in the description below. All you have to do is plug in your own numbers and you'll get some real-time estimates right now. The only thing I ask in return is please, if you could like and subscribe to this video, I would truly appreciate it. It took me a lot of time to make this video and also the spreadsheet, so it helped me a lot to grow this channel. And if you found value in this video, you might actually like this other video where I talk about the non-financial reasons to buy versus sell right now. Anyways, hopefully you found some value in this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.